The summer sun poured softly through my bedroom curtains, painting everything in warm shades of gold. Outside, the neighborhood was alive with birdsong and laughter, but inside my heart, there was only confusion. I was 34, married for nearly a decade to Raghav, a man I once believed was my forever. We had built a comfortable life together, our own home, steady jobs, and routines so perfectly synchronized they felt unshakable. And yet, somewhere along the way, the spark between us had dimmed. Conversations had grown shorter, touches fewer, and kisses almost non-existent. Then he moved in next door. Ariv. He was 24, a fresh graduate, full of life and ambition. From the moment I first saw him carrying boxes into the small rental house beside ours, something in me stirred, something I had long buried under the weight of responsibilities and expectations. I told myself it was harmless curiosity. He was just the boy next door, nothing more. But every time I stepped outside and caught his smile, or heard his deep laugh drifting through the evening air, I felt my composure slipping. One evening, as I watered the roses in our backyard, Ariv appeared on the other side of the fence. He leaned casually against the wooden panels, holding a glass of lemonade. His t-shirt damp with sweat from what must have been a workout. "Your roses are beautiful," he said, his voice warm, playful. "I was going to plant some myself, but I'm afraid they'd just die under my care." I laughed, brushing a stray strand of hair behind my ear. "It takes patience more than skill. You'd be surprised what a little attention can do." He mused, eyes twinkling. "So you're saying I need to learn patience?" I swallowed, feeling a strange flutter in my chest. "It's a useful quality," I managed to reply. For a moment our eyes met, and something unspoken passed between us. I quickly looked away, pretending to fuss over the flowers, but my heart was racing. Days turned into weeks, and somehow, Ariv kept finding reasons to be around. Sometimes he'd ask for help with a recipe, sometimes he'd borrow a book, and sometimes he'd just sit on his porch with his guitar, strumming softly while I pretended to read in the garden. One rainy afternoon, I stepped out onto the veranda to bring in the laundry when I saw him standing under the big banyan tree, drenched and laughing. "You're going to catch a cold," I called out. He looked up at me, his hair plastered to his forehead, raindrops sliding down his jaw. "Then you'll just have to make me ginger tea, won't you?" I should have walked back inside. I should have ignored the way his voice sent shivers down my spine. But instead I smiled. "Come over then." Inside, the warmth of the kitchen wrapped around us as the rain hammered against the windows. I brewed the tea while he leaned casually against the counter, his damp t-shirt clinging to his chest. "You always take care of everyone, don't you?" he asked softly. I glanced up, startled. "What do you mean?" "You look after your plants, your home, your husband. Now me." He paused, his gaze lingering on my face. "But who takes care of you?" His words hit me harder than I expected. I opened my mouth to respond, but nothing came. No one had asked me that in years. Before I could gather my thoughts, he stepped closer, just enough that I could feel his warmth. "You deserve more than just routine, you know," he whispered. I turned away quickly, sliding the cup of tea toward him. "You should drink before it gets cold." He accepted it with a small smile, but the silence between us was charged with something dangerous and undeniable. That night, I lay awake beside Raghav, listening to the steady rhythm of his breathing. My mind replayed every glance, every word, every unspoken promise in Ariv's eyes. I hated myself for feeling this way, yet I couldn't stop. A week later it happened. I was sitting on the garden bench, pretending to read, when Ariv walked over with his guitar. "Want to hear something?" he asked. I nodded, and he began strumming a soft melody, his voice low and husky as he sang. The song was about longing, about wanting something just out of reach, and every word felt like it was meant for me. When he finished, silence fell between us, broken only by the rustling of leaves. "That was beautiful," I whispered. He set the guitar aside and leaned closer. "You inspire me," he said simply. I froze, my heart thundering. "Ariv." I know, he said softly. You're married. I shouldn't feel this way. But I do. And I think you do too. I wanted to deny it. I wanted to tell him he was wrong. But when I looked into his eyes, I couldn't lie. Not to him, not to myself. Instead, I whispered, "This is dangerous." He smiled faintly. Sometimes the most dangerous things are the ones worth wanting. The days that followed were a blur of stolen moments and lingering glances. A brush of fingers as he handed me a book. A quiet smile across the fence. A soft good night that held far more meaning than it should. And yet no lines were crossed. Not yet. Until one evening when the power went out during a summer storm. I lit candles around the living room, their golden glow filling the space. Raghav was working late, and the house felt too big, too quiet. Then there was a knock at the door. It was Ariv, holding a small lantern. "Thought you might need some light," he said. I stepped aside to let him in, and for a while we just sat there on the couch, talking softly while the rain lashed against the windows. At some point the conversation stopped. We sat in silence, the only sound the storm outside and our uneven breaths. I felt his hand graze mine, tentative, hesitant. I should have pulled away. But I didn't. When I looked up, his face was inches from mine. His eyes dark with everything we had been holding back for weeks. "Ariv," I breathed, my voice trembling. He leaned closer, his forehead resting against mine. "Tell me to stop," he whispered. I couldn't. And then, finally, his lips brushed against mine. Soft, fleeting, almost a question rather than an answer. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear the storm. But just as quickly I pulled away, shaking my head. "I can't," I said, my voice breaking. "I'm married." He nodded, pain flashing in his eyes, but he didn't argue. "I know," he said softly. "And that's why I'll never push. But I had to know if you felt it too." I swallowed hard, tears stinging my eyes. "I do," I whispered. For a moment we just sat there, the weight of everything unsaid pressing down on us. Then he stood, gently touching my cheek one last time before walking out into the rain. The next day, I woke to find a small note slipped under my door. "Some feelings are too strong to ignore, but some lines are too sacred to cross. I'll always be next door, but I'll never stand in the way of your marriage. A." I folded the note carefully and placed it in my drawer, where it still lies to this day. Life went on. Raghav and I eventually began working on our relationship, rediscovering pieces of each other we had long forgotten. But sometimes on quiet nights, I still hear the soft strumming of Ariv's guitar drifting through the open window. And my heart whispers of a love that almost was.